Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you had a good break. I hope you were able to do a little stretching, walk around, get another glass of water. We are about to get started with our second panel of the day. I'm so excited to introduce our fabulous authors who are going to be here talking to us a little bit about a mix of murder, mystery, and mayhem. I'm really excited to introduce you guys to Mary Burton, Abby Collette, Leslie Langtry, and K.D. Richards. This is going to be a really fun conversation. And if you guys at any point have questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat, and I'll put them on the screen so that so that our authors have a chance to answer them and address that. But otherwise, we're going to just go ahead and get right to it. Okay, so round robin style, you guys. I am going to have you go around and say a little bit about yourself, just 3 sentences or less. Tell us about yourself and how you got started writing. Mary, I'll start with you.
Okay, my name is Mary Burton, and I write suspense. I've started writing when my kids were babies. They're now in their late 20s. And I just started off in historical romance and then moved to suspense. And now I also write women's fiction under the name Mary Ellen Taylor. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm. All right, Leslie, we'll go to you next.
All right. Hello, I'm Leslie Langtry. I write cozy comedies, and I do have another series that's kind of a dark humor series. I've been writing. I sold my first novel in 2006, so I've been writing ever since. And my kids were little too, Mary, when I started, and now they're in college.
How about you, Abby? You go next.
I am Abby Collette, but I also write as Abby Vandiver. I'm a hybrid author. I started out self-publishing, and now I'm traditionally publishing, and I kill people, so I write cozy mystery. And I also have a women's fiction book that's coming out, which I was not allowed to kill anyone in.
Rude.
And I think that, I used to be a lawyer, but I like writing about murderers better than I do defending them. So here we are.
Awesome. All right. And K.D., you go last.
Hi, I am K.D. Richards. I write romantic suspense and thrillers. Write thrillers under the name Kia D. Richards. And like Abby, I was a lawyer. I practiced for 15 years in corporate and business-related law. But I always wrote and decided after a move to Toronto for my husband's career that I would give writing a shot. And so my kids are still small, but one day I hope to say that 30 books published and now they're grown and like everyone else, right?
Right, absolutely.
Well, my kids were middle-aged when I started this.
They were old enough to read your books at that point.
Yeah, mine keep asking to read, so they got about 10 more years before they're
that's what I used to say. Wait till you're 21.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny. Well, interesting for Abby and Mary, since you do where I find it to be such an extreme opposite of like suspense and women's fiction. Like, can you talk a little bit about like wearing the two different hats and how you approach those books if you approach them differently? And I'll start with you, Abby.
I cried because it was like I decided I wanted to do something different. I want to write mystery and I want to write cozy. But this one book, actually, someone contacted me and said, "I've got the story," and it just would not leave me. And it was a women's fiction kind of thing, and so I wrote up a synopsis to send to my agent. Of course, I had murder in there. She was like, "Can you try not to kill anyone, Abby?" It was the hardest thing, but I think it was hard because I got, inside of myself. Mm-hmm. It's such a good thing to know because we're creative people. We have all kinds of ideas and we don't limit ourselves, and when our creativity bubbles up, it goes all sorts of ways. So it was good to do that. I enjoyed doing that. And it is different, but I think me expanding what I write helped me expand as a writer.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy with this little women's fiction. It comes out August 2022. Nice. And I like it. No one else does, but it's fun. And it's different. You really you do have to switch hats. But the same little things that I think that I do well, like writing dialogue and I write family in all my books, all those things still came together, coalesced, and that made it, be me. That's my voice. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. What about you, Mary?
I guess it was about 10 years ago. I was writing suspense and it was going really well. And I just had this story that kept kind of coming back to me. And so I started writing it, and I would kind of use those pages in the morning because it wasn't sold. It was kind of like my morning pages. It would kind of like get my brain going. And I kept doing it. And finally finished the manuscript. And after some revisions was able to sell it. But it's a different creative process. I mean, it's the same, but you're using your muscles a little differently. It's like doing a different kind of exercise. And I have found both the suspense and the women's fiction, they kind of help each other. The more I write both, you see more suspense elements in the women's fiction, not murder. Because when I was researching this first one, people kept saying, are you going to kill people? It's like, no, not killing people. Seriously, just need historical research or a recipe. I'm not going to poison anybody.
I promise. I'm not slipping any
right.
arsenic anywhere.
Exactly. So, and I've just gotten to the point where I'm lucky enough that I can balance them both now.
Yeah, that is really cool. Because I just always imagine to be like, okay, I guess in the morning I'm going to be writing about faith and family. And then in the afternoon, I'm like, okay, I'm murdering. This is the best.
Yeah, the trick for me is to take a lunch break. I do one in the morning, take a lunch break, and then I'm kind of reset to start the second set in the afternoon. If I'm at the point where I'm balancing two at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to, so this next question, when writing about a crime, does real life inspire you? In other words, are the stories ripped from the headlines? And if so, how do you make the story your own? And I'm going to start with Leslie.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I have an interesting answer to that.
Cool.
My Mary Wrath mystery series, the main character is a woman who was accidentally outed as a CIA agent and by the vice president. So that's kind of ripped by that from the headline.
Yeah.
And she goes back to her small hometown in Iowa where her best friend convinces her to start a Girl Scout troop. And then there's bodies everywhere, like terrorists and other people die. So I wouldn't say my murders are ripped from the headlines, but my main character is.
Awesome. All right. Abby.
No, but I always want to do that. I admire people who say, I saw an article or I saw a headline or I know that this is a true story and I base my story on it. So I've been looking because I would like to do that. So far, I come up with my own way of killing people, which may not be a good thing, but
You're like, I have my own bank. It's fine.
I'm working on it though.
K.D., what about you?
So far, I haven't written anything that's ripped from the headlines. I do have a file of ideas, and lots of those ideas come from the headlines, but they haven't made their way into a book yet. Yes,
exactly. Still new.
Right.
All right, Mary, what about you?
Not really. I read a lot of police procedure novels or not novels, but research books. And usually the ideas come out of that. And I find real life has a tendency to be kind of messy. It doesn't get wrapped up. Whereas I think we all need to kind of wrap it up at the end of our story so we have that sense of justice. But yeah, most of mine come from either hearing lectures of law enforcement or reading police procedures, or the ideas kind of come out of that.
I love that. Well, and Abby, you kind of mentioned this a little bit in your last comment about how you have like a book and a file, and K.D. also has like a file of things that you're keeping track of and want to address. I was curious for all of you guys, how do you keep track of your story points and characters consistent when writing across series?
Well, I've got 20 books in one of my series. So I actually have a woman, she's a fan, and she has created a series Bible for me. So
nice.
She keeps track of all Mary's little CIA stories and how people, everyone in the town, which is bad because I keep adding like each book. I had like 10 more people to the town, but that's okay because I kill some. So it kind of evens out,
Exactly. It's like plant a tree,
population.
Right.
Exactly. But I do have somebody who helps me because I'm middle-aged and I have the memory of a lobotomized gnat. So I often have to go in there and go, what color were her eyes? I can't remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just stopped writing eye color because I won't remember. But your publisher keeps that thing. What's that thing called, you guys, that says it tells every character in the book your style
sheet.
Yeah, so they help, although I can never find mine in my emails. But so I don't remember. I remember one time I was on a panel and they said, we're going to go around and ask you, tell us what your book is about. And I was like, oh my God, I don't remember. And so while the last person before me was talking, I'm reading the back of my book, the synopsis on there. I said, oh, that's what this one's about. So I don't know that I'm consistent. This is the first time I've done it, that I'm writing 2 series at the same time, plus the women's fiction. And I worry while I'm writing, am I speaking in Wynn's voice or am I speaking in Keaton's voice?
Oh, yeah.
Character. And so sometimes, and I never go back and read my books because I always think they're terrible and I'll be sad if I read them, So I have found, though, that now I need to go back and find out some things, and I'm always surprised. I go, oh, she does that, because I'm a pantser and I don't plan when I write. So what comes out, comes out. And I just have to, try to remember it. One day, maybe I'll be like Leslie and I'll have someone be like, I don't remember.
Oh, man. Yeah, Leslie, when did you get your fan to help you? Was it around like book 10?
No, like a year ago.
Oh,
nice.
So she's been reading the books in bulk, like 3 books at a time, and doing this. Yeah, I really should have done it sooner, I think, but oh well. I mean, I know authors. See, I'm a pantser too, Abby. I totally get that. And but I know authors who they're just really meticulous about everything they put down, and that's not me. I'm never good at that.
Oh, that's so funny. What about you, Mary? How do you keep track of your stories?
Well, for the most part, most of my books stand alone, so that makes it easier.
Yeah.
I had one suspense series set in Nashville, and there were 4 books, and the eye colors started to shift by book 4. So it is, but yeah, for the most part, my books stand alone, and that makes remembering a lot easier.
Absolutely, and it helps you with, especially with the voice thing that Abby pointed out, of having to kind of be conscious of that. You're like, hey, it could be a new voice every time. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. All right. And K.D.
Yeah, I'm running up against that problem right now. I'm writing the 5th book in the West series. And even though the primary characters are always 2 new characters, the main characters don't carry over. The universe is the same. So I have to remember, this person is kind of cocky and suave, and this person is quiet with brown eyes and brown hair. So I did have a reader point out a mistake where I think that right, the guy, although he could have shaved. I didn't say he shaved, but he could have shaved. The guy had a beard, and then he didn't have a beard. In a tight time frame. But I'm going to say he shaved. He found the time in the middle of dodging bullets.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, I got to look nice for this."
Totally legit. Totally legit.
Yeah.
I am giddy. I usually scratch things out on a piece of paper as I'm writing to put in a theoretical file somewhere that it never makes it. I have a pile of Post-its that I can go back through and try to remember, like, what did I say? Is nothing here? Or this guy's eye color, or that girl's hair color? Is it curly? Is it straight?
Yep. That would be the hardest thing. To keep track of all that. I would be like, I guess spreadsheets. We all have spreadsheets. Okay. So this is a little twisted, but it's a question that we asked in our polls also. And so I'm curious for you guys, since you do spend time thinking about disposing bodies, running into bodies, any sort of thing, how would you recommend from, either get away with it or not, but how would you recommend disposing of a dead body? give you a second. I love these faces. Everybody's got faces. It's so good.
My
I just think
suggestion
if
is
anything happens to my husband,
I know.
I'm in so much.
Do we want to make that
trouble.
public? I mean, really?
you just need to dig the hole first. Dig the hole first.
Yeah, Mary, tell us more about digging that hole first. That sounds, yeah.
Well, murder's easy. It's disposing of the body is hard, as we all know.
Yeah.
So if you dig the hole first, you're ready.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of the premise. My characters are usually ready to get rid of the body or do whatever they need to do to it.
They're not pantsing, they're disposing of bodies.
No. And that's not something you might want to mention at a cocktail party like I did a couple of months ago. You've got to dig the hole first.
Totally.
Yeah. See, if I was at that cocktail party with you, Mary, I'd be like, I agree. And
where would you dig that hole?
And we should do it a little bit farther away on somebody's
How deep do you
property.
go?
Yeah.
It's better if you can get the victim to dig the hole. Then
Perfect.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
Then you don't even have to do the work.
Crying and babbling if they're digging the hole. Too much drama. You just want them dead and done.
Done.
I think that I would freeze the body and then cut down that tree in my backyard and put it all through the wood chipper.
Brilliant.
Well, I live in Canada and there's lots of open space, so I probably go find some spot deep in the woods where not a lot of people travel and bury it there.
Yep.
But it goes back to Mary's dig the hole first.
Yes.
And don't take your cell phone or a car with GPS.
Yes.
No.
Yep. That's
Or
right.
your car with no
Take your bike.
GPS.
Leave your phone at home and use their phone to call from wherever you bury them. Call you because it looks like you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
And don't use like an Uber or anything.
No.
Pretty hard to hide the body.
Right. Yeah. Stick it in the back. Leslie, do you have any other additions for body?
Most of my bodies are discoverable pretty quickly because the hero has to find them. And so I don't really hide a lot of bodies. I know how to, but I don't really do that because I want it found right away. I want it dealt with right away. But I mean, I totally get this. It's like, somebody said, how come you don't have Alexa yet? And I said, well, it records everything. What if I want to kill somebody? And then someone puts Alexa on the court, they can use that. I don't want to.
She said she was so mad she was going to kill someone.
She's going to kill her husband. And then you hear the husband screaming. And then what? Then there's no husband anymore in the conversations. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I usually make my bodies really quickly, easily discoverable, or to frame somebody else. They show up in somebody else's yard or house, so it frames them.
Absolutely.
Well, the best way to get away with it is to not try to hide the body, right? Make it look like an accident or a natural cause or something.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm very lazy. Very lazy.
All day. I'm going to be.
This is like literally my favorite conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the thing too, is it's like we want to get away with it. If we're going through all this trouble, I do not want it to be found like 2 weeks later and then I'm in jail. Like I want to be found out when I'm 80 and they're like, that was the one. She finally bit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when
you're 80, because they'll still put you in jail.
That's true. I mean, yeah. They'll still take you.
Yeah.
Be the worst. All right. Well, when you're writing your story, do you start at the end where you know what's going to happen, or do you start at the beginning? Because especially with mystery, you're like obviously you're writing toward a point, toward that discovery. Do you start with the end in mind, or do you just kind of like?
I just pants it. I pants the whole thing, and then usually like Abby does, like maybe about halfway through, I'll go, "Oh my God, you did it!" I'm often surprised.
I love that.
But I do by the end know who it is. I mean, I once read that Agatha Christie rarely knew who did it. She'd write the whole book and then she'd decide, and then she'd go back and sprinkle with that. But I don't think it'd be fun for me anymore if I started plotting it, because I kind of get a kick out of reading it as I write it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun for me too, which is
you want to be
really
surprised also.
Kind of strange, but yeah.
Well, I think if you can't enjoy your books, then who else will? Like, you've got to love your books.
That's a good
If
point.
you're not sitting on the edge of your seat while you're typing, I mean, if you're really relaxed and thinking about lunch and boy, I'd rather have a cookie, then chances are it's not cutting edge stuff. I mean, if you're excited about it, I always find if I'm kind of leaning into the keyboard, it's I'm probably hitting the notes I need to hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I always have to know, even though I'm a pantser, some things I have to know before I get started. Everyone, the killer, I have to know who the killer is. So I'm never surprised at who the killer is. And I have to know the victim, how they died, and why. And I need to know 5 suspects. I always give myself 5, even if they don't all show up. And I have to know all those people, their names. So once I do that, then I can start. And most times I just, so I write chapter 1. And then every other chapter is chapter next, because I don't know where it's going to go. I just write down whatever scene I'm thinking about. But there are times, because you want to sprinkle clues throughout. Sometimes I think, oh my God, how am I going to find out how this person did it? So I go and I write the last chapter and I write, and then we found this, and then this, they said this, and I go, oh, that's how they did it. And then I go put those clues back in so that those things really happen. So not all the time I never write a book straight through, but not all the time I can get into the end without. And then even sometimes when I think I have all the clues and I'm explaining, to the reader how we discovered it, how we put all the clues, the character put all the clues together, I still sometimes have to go back and say, and then we were listening in on something, or we Googled his Facebook page or whatever.
The magic of rewrites. Yeah.
Well, and I don't rewrite. Whatever I write.
I do.
I don't do any drafts. Whatever I write, I read. Man, I have a friend in California, Catherine. We read that chapter and I'm done with it. Unless I stick something in it, and I don't even read it then. I remember, I go, oh, I remember I said, and I look up that word and I stick it right there. But yeah, when I write one chapter, when I write the book, I'm done. No more. So I had a real hard time with women's fiction because they wanted to do edits. Oh my God, I thought I was gonna have to get some mental help. I can't do edits. I can't revise.
Oh yeah, but then it's like the richness of that story. Once it's all done, it'll be so cool. Yeah. Yeah. K.D., what about you?
Well, I'm an outliner, so I start out at least knowing my major beat points, my major plot points. I usually think I know who the killer is, who the bad guy is, but the characters always surprise me. So, that's not necessarily who the killer ultimately is by the time I get to the end of the book. But I do have an idea. And then like Abby, I also have an idea of who I'm going to make look potentially like a suspect. But I'm kind of a mix, I think, of like what I've heard from everyone else here. I surprise myself as I'm writing and things change and I'll drop you have to, because you changed this and I have to go back later and change all this other stuff because you didn't know that was going to happen, but it's great. It's good. So I do outline, but if you look at my outline, you look at the end product, maybe the names are the same. But everything else,
the writer is the same person. That's the same,
right? That's it. Almost everything is different. I'm trying to think if there's anything that really say maybe the general sketch of a plot is probably it's the same, but it's quite different by the end. That's the fun part for me. And I'm a rewriter. I usually do at least 2-3 drafts. But hopefully they get progressively better.
K.D, she sent me a couple of things. Didn't you send me a couple of things to read? And I loved it. And we talk about it. And then I get her book that I think is based on all the stuff I read. Wait, where did this book come from?
Is this a new book? It's not new. It's the same characters.
Thank you. It was music in it, but it was nothing like iterations. It was good. All 3 of them were good that I read, but she's right. It's like, how do you do that? I cannot do that. I'm just stuck. Whatever I think I'm going to write about, that's what I write about.
Yeah. And Mary?
I always start off with a synopsis. It's about 10, 12 pages. And so I think I've got the plot, and then I start writing, and then the characters do. I think all the answers are in your subconscious, and the more you type, the more they kind of rise to the surface. So I always give it's like a budget, it's a suggestion. So I often change it a lot, and my editors are kind of used to that now. But I think it ends up being a better story because the more I get to know the characters, the more I can throw things in their path that might be more challenging for them than before I really knew them. And I've heard this joke, there's the outliners and there's the pantsers, and then there are people in between that are the panty liners.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
Too. Yeah, you have to be a writer to really get that one. But it is. I'm kind of a hybrid between the plotters and the pantsers.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. All right, I love this question that Lady Sarah Edmonds just popped into the chat, so I'm going to throw it up a little early. How hard has modern technology made crafting a mystery? I'd really love to hear your thoughts on that.
It's difficult.
Well,
I think
it's like we were saying about the GPS and the security cameras.
In some ways, it's made it more interesting because your sleuth can get on the internet and find out a lot of information. But on the other hand, so can everybody else. So you have to be really creative. Like, why? How could the police not find her? She's been on her cell phone all day. It's not that hard. They know. Why didn't they call her? Because it's not as if if you're out of your house, you can't get a phone call anymore. It's a lot harder in some ways.
I agree. I watch a lot of Forensic Files, and it's amazing how forensic technology has changed dramatically from like the 80s to the 90s, with DNA and everything else. It's all happened so quickly. It's like, I often wonder how anyone could get away with anything. At this point.
But then you have the realities of life. Like, yes, they have DNA testing, but there's often a huge backlog within the laboratories. Right. Or it's a small jurisdiction. Or, you can get around it, but you've got to be aware of what the technology is. Right. So you can get around it logically.
The DNA thing is hardest because your book can't last a whole year. You can't just have them waiting a year and nobody's the sleuth is working on some other case for a year while they wait for DNA to come back. Like, you have to figure out how to make it reasonable, and everybody knows DNA takes a long time now, so you have to make it reasonable. Like, why does it come back in an hour?
They can do a little fast DNA, but you've got to give a really good reason for it.
Right. Yeah.
So it makes it hard for me because I can't do technology in real life. So, putting it into the book, and how it works is really hard for me too. But I think K.D. is right. It helps with solving them now, so it makes it more interesting. But you have to know so much. So now you spend a lot of time researching, how DNA works and how all this stuff. And I love Forensic Files too, but a lot of them are from the 70s, and they didn't have, they're still stealing people's pop cans after they got through drinking. Nowadays, you don't have to do that anymore so much. You could like brush up against them or whatever. So I don't know. It's nice to have put in the books, and maybe it makes it more suspenseful because if you're killing someone, you've got to avoid all these, dropping a piece of hair or whatever. But for the author, maybe it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys realize this, but you just helped add a little bit extra tip to how to dispose of a body. It's also to just, make sure that if you are going to do it, maybe do it in a smaller jurisdiction, place where it's a little underfunded. Maybe might be the best place to leave those
Watch out for all the cameras. They're on ATM machines, they're on front doorbells, they're everywhere.
Ring doorbells, Or just wear a hazmat when you take the body to Mary's hole that she's done.
Right. Yeah. Well, that keeps the DNA off your body.
Yeah, you won't be obvious at all walking around.
That's the one thing that, like, the pandemic and having to wear masks all the time helps us just, always look like we're incognito.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. I lost my questions. I got so thrown on that excitement of how would we get rid of some bodies? All right. Okay. So we already talked about pantsers and plotters. It seems like we've got a nice combination on the panel. But now, because writing always needs some sort of fuel, either be it snacks or exercise, I would love to hear what your writing fuel is. Leslie, I'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I think my writing feels so I write humor.
Mhm.
So if I'm not feeling it that day, I do have some books that and videos I can go to kind of get me going. I do read a lot of cozy mysteries. I read a lot of humor, so that helps. But snacks are a big part of it. I pretty much eat all day long. I feel like, oh, I can't think of what to write next. I'm going to go find a sandwich,
Yep.
Exactly. It might be the answer's in the refrigerator.
Yep.
It almost always
Yeah.
is.
It is.
Sometimes it's
kidding.
in the freezer where the Ben and Jerry's is.
Right.
Mhm.
Big
In the back.
inspiration,
Yeah.
Ben and Jerry,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. They've been there for for so many books, Ben and Jerry.
yes,
So supportive.
yes. Many books.
What about you, Abby?
So I like to listen to music. Some people tell me they can only listen to instrumental, but I like music with words. I think I like company, but not real people because, I won't get anything done, but like the TV noise. But I love listening to music. And a lot of times, I'm singing a song and all of a sudden those words just go right into my manuscript, whatever.
Of course.
And yes, I'm a snack girl too, and I try to eat stuff that I won't get my keyboard full of crumbs and
That
stuff.
is always. Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think that's about it. Music and some snacks. I'm
Mhm.
happy.
That's the way to be. Music.
Yeah,
and
and I like
snacks.
oldies, like Motown sound. So, I'm just crooning over here and writing books.
I love that. Oh man. What about you, Mary?
For me, it's just getting away from the computer. And you see, I post a lot of pictures from walks. I walk a lot. That's a good way. And then when that doesn't work, there's always peanut butter. That's my nemesis. My desk is usually littered with spoons of peanut butter spoons.
I love that so much. Katie?
Yeah, for me, reading helps. But if that's not working, I have this really soft, beautiful rug in my living room, and just like laying on it like a starfish, and it's so relaxing. So I'll do that and just let my mind wander, and that usually ideas start coming once I'm relaxed enough. Because I'm always thinking about plots and how to
Can't get away from them.
Right. So that helps get the juices going. And I'm not a sweets person, but I love saltiness. So pretzels and I guess if I'm going to do sweets, it would be like Pepsi. I love Pepsi. So Pepsi and pretzels.
Pepsi and pretzels. I love that. That sounds like a great name for a podcast. Pepsi and
I was
Pepsi
thinking
and
like a band or
pretzels.
something.
Yeah, I was like, write that down. Pepsi and pretzels, or dog, or like could be puppy names.
You're right.
Those would be good names.
So, what is a favorite distraction when you're avoiding writing? I'm going with Leslie first. 100% on that. That giggle.
If I'm not, I saw a cartoon the other day. It was the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. And it was something about give an author a deadline and you'll see the cleanest house you've ever seen. So if I'm fighting off a deadline, I should be writing, but then I'm like, I better clean this house. What if something happens and the police need to come by or something happens, So I tend to have a really clean house when I'm avoiding a deadline. And I hate cleaning, so.
That's so good. Katie, you said reading.
No, I reading, yes, definitely. But the cleaning the house too. I think that is something. My house is never cleaner than in the days before my book is due.
Yeah.
It's like that nesting when you're expecting a baby. You're
right,
nesting.
Exactly. I just have to clean right this second. So that's one way. I play the violin and the piano, so that's also something. Generally, I can put it off, but again, when the books do, it's like you haven't played in a while. You're
getting all dusty. I need to tune you.
Right. You've got to practice right second. So that would be my procrastination.
Oh man, what about you, Mary?
It used to be baking when the kids were in the house. There was always cupcakes and cookies, and now they're gone. And I really don't need a lot of cupcakes and cookies on the
In your
counter.
life?
'Cause-
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I will bake. I'll go into the kitchen, make a soup. And I think what we all find is something it's creative in a different way, and it just kind of unlocks whatever's caught up in your brain. And I always used to joke that I'd get 5 dozen cookies made, and I always burn the last one because the ideas would come to me. I'd forget the cookies were in the oven and go back to the computer till I smell the smoke.
Oh crap, that's right. I was cooking.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I ruined a Dutch oven doing that.
Yeah.
Very thing. I was like, oh, oops, I was writing. My bad. What about
Take
you,
one
Abby?
for the team.
I know now it's a beautiful planter. It's going to be a very nice planter when it's done. Abby, what about you? How do you avoid?
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind was boys. I would go, but I thought that might not be a good answer. I'm
boys are
single,
always.
so I think about men a lot, But I don't know. I guess watching a movie on TV, that's more of my escape, though. Like if I'm just stressed or whatever, it's just like I just want to curl up on the couch and watch a good movie. And I guess I guess that might help me too. Although to help me, I write. I mean, I walk or I drive, or like Leslie, I read another cozy mystery. But so it's kind of an escape, but it is where I go. But I'm just so good at procrastination.
Same.
I just wake up. Sometimes I sit in front of a computer, and I might even bring up the document, the manuscript, and then that's about it.
That's work.
You got to check your email. You got to see what's going on YouTube first.
You can check that off the list. That's work. That's work.
Get there.
Yeah, and then about 3 hours later, I go, okay, so that's enough of that, and I move, and so yeah.
The words aren't coming today, so let's not force it.
They probably there. I'm just not putting them on the paper.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Well, I'm really curious to know about your writing days. Like, what does a typical writing day or untypical writing day look like for you? K.D, I'll start with you.
Well, and over the last 2 years, there hasn't really been a typical writing day because my kids have been not homeschooling, but virtual schooling. So I have to keep jumping up in the middle of the day because somebody has recess and somebody wants snack and somebody, is on lunch, and then their schedules are completely different because one's in middle school and one's in elementary school. So I write between momming during the day right now. But before, when they went off to school, I would write from 9 to 12ish, break for lunch for half an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how well I've written in the morning, and then or how much I've written in the morning, and then work again from 1 to 3, and go get the kids, and then the evening, an hour or two would be spent on the business side stuff you have to do, and social media and all that good stuff. So it was pretty regimented. I like schedules. I'm a schedule person. So I like to stick to schedule. So that would be pretty much how I did every day.
Yeah. What about you, Abby?
Yeah, so I don't have a schedule. Sometimes, I'm in the car and I'll write on the back of an envelope because I think of something, but I want to do like KD. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so good. I always say I should treat it like a job, but usually I wait until it's almost due and then I write.
I'd have a heart attack.
You've got to have that. We call it the panic monster. It has to start knocking on your head.
I don't panic. It's just everyone else around me panics. Like, are you working on the book? Are you doing the book? Because you only have 2. Yeah, I know.
Like, it's all I'm thinking about. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. So yeah, I always tell people, don't use me as an example on being, being a writer.
Everybody. Well, no, it's a good example though too, because everybody approaches it differently. Yeah. And then I think that is one thing that we've seen with all of your answers today is that everybody approaches getting this final product in a different way. And I think that that is incredibly important for readers, even if you aren't writers yourself, just you can apply that to any sort of business or anything in your life, that it just, everybody does it differently.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Leslie, what about you?
When my kids were little, it was always during when they were in school. But really, being an empty nester now, I get up, I do mostly the business stuff, any emails or any promotion, marketing, anything I have to do. And then after lunch, I usually write for a few hours. So
Cool.
not very exciting.
Oh, that's great. And Mary?
Well, I have 3 old dogs, so I'm usually up by about 4:30 in the morning, which was kind of what I was doing before the pandemic. So we're still doing it. So I get up early, I work out, and then I'm usually at my desk after walking the dogs by 8 o'clock. And then depending on what my goal for the day is, depending on what draft I'm in, like rough draft, I'm writing about 15 to 20 pages a day. So once the pages are done, I'm done. And that could be 2 hours, it could be 5 hours. So I found it works better for me, not just like the time per day, but the pages per day. So like right now I'm writing a synopsis, so it's a little bit more in the air. I'm working from about 9 to 1 or 2. But once I'm into the draft, it's when the pages are done.
Awesome. All right. Well, so Abby, we have a follow-up. Oh, I was going to say she already answered it, but I'm curious, Abby, how long does it take you to complete a book?
3 weeks. I can write a book in 21 days.
Ooh, man.
So that's probably why I wait till the last minute.
Yeah. You just need that, like that feeling in your gut. You're like, I could do this.
I can do this. Yeah. And I need a deadline. That's because I won't start
That
to
helps.
before.
Yeah.
Don't tell me, oh, just get it to me when you can.
Yeah. I totally understand that. I love a deadline. I'm a self-starter, but I like a deadline.
Yeah.
Just need to know I'm working towards something.
Right. I need a goal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what is some advice that you would give a younger version of yourself early in their writing career, and I'll start with Mary.
I think at first we don't trust our own voice as a person, as a writer. We're trying to sound like a writer, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But once you kind of get into it and your skills develop, you start to relax, and the real you kind of comes out a little bit more, your own style, your own voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say, don't worry about trying to chase that writer's voice. Just keep writing and it will come. You'll find one day you'll be tired, you have 5 pages to write, and you just put what you have down on the page and you look at it and you go, I didn't second guess myself. And so just keep typing and you'll find that your voice and the pages do come. But yeah, you gotta keep typing.
Absolutely. Leslie?
Well, I was going to say, I would tell myself, stop cleaning the house and write the damn book. But this is often attributed to Nora Roberts. I don't know who actually said this, but this is the advice I also give other writers too, who are starting out is, I think she said, write every day. I can fix a broken page. I can't fix a blank one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly
like Mary said, if you don't write it, no one's going to write it for you. So, and stop cleaning. Just stop cleaning and just.
Yeah, you can fix the house in like 2 hours if you really
yeah.
put your mind to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Gotta
right.
get the book done.
Yeah. K.D.?
Well, I would tell myself to take more risk. It took me a really long time to on the page and in general in your career. It took me a really long time to show anybody my writing because I was afraid that it was never going to be good enough. And I started writing when I was like 11 years old. That's the first story I wrote, and I wrote consistently throughout. But I didn't publish until I was 40 because I didn't try. I didn't show it to anybody. I didn't join any writers groups. I told myself, oh, this is just a hobby. When in reality, I really did want to publish, right? I was just afraid that of the rejection, and you do get rejected. So you have to, accept that as part of it.
Absolutely.
And I would say you're not a writer. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say you're not a writer Unless you've been rejected. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
Absolutely.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
accept it and put it out there.
Yeah. I have a saying now in my office that it says you may not get over the fear. You might have to just do it anyway.
Mhm.
So
That's
and that's sort of what I remind myself, right? It's scary. It's scary. I've gotten 5 books, 3 out, 2 more coming, and it's still scary when I send a synopsis to the editor. Like, she still might say, no, I don't like it, but send it anyway.
But you can change it.
Do it anyway. That's true.
Yeah.
You can change it. You
change
can make it better. All feedback is good, but you have to try. Books don't get published if you don't write them.
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Abby?
So I'm like new because I haven't been writing as long as any of the other ladies. I just started writing. I got really sick and I couldn't even get out of the bed. And I didn't have anything to do but worry about what was wrong with me. And so I started writing just to have something to do. So, and I never thought about, I'm not like K.D. I didn't know when I was young I wanted to be a writer. I never ever knew. I think when I started writing, I didn't think I wanted to be a writer. So maybe I would tell myself, you are a writer, because I had been complimented on my writing before. I wrote legal briefs. If I could write, a brief or an appeal, I would win because I was persuasive in my writing. So I guess it was always in the back of my head that I write well, but I never thought, hey, you can actually do this, and not have to worry about clients paying you or whatever. You can make up a story. So I may have, told myself, you can write, so write. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I never thought about being a writer. And I'm so happy that I am now.
That's good.
It's like I remember I kept going back to school. I have 3 degrees because every time I get 1 degree, I go, no, I should probably do something else or something more. I was like never satisfied. And now I am. I just want to be a better writer. I never think I should be something different or something more. So maybe it would have been nice. Because the first time I published a book, I was 60 years old.
Wow, Abby.
Traditionally published 60 years old.
I love hearing
That's
that
amazing.
because everybody is on their own journey and they're going to get there on their own way. And that's so magical. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies, before I say goodbye to you, I would love for you guys to tell us a little bit about what you have been enjoying recently. We always ask at our book clubs what we're reading, watching, and listening to. So I'd love to hear if you have any recommendations or books that we should avoid. That also is always good too. But I understand that maybe you'll be more interested in sharing what you love. And I'll start with Abby.
Oh, you would.
I would, yeah.
The last book that I read that I really enjoyed. So I've been editing and writing a book, but it was recent because I just moved into my new house. So I know I read it here. So last couple months is B.A. Paris's The Therapist. And oh my gosh, I was in my room in the dark reading it on a Kindle. So, at the backlight, and someone knocked on my door. Oh my God, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. It's just that good, where you just slip down that rabbit hole with the book.
Yep.
So yes, that's sort of what I've been reading. And I've also been reading to learn. So I've been reading a lot of things to learn. I really enjoy, and it was maybe a year ago I read, or maybe a year and a half, Celeste Ng's Little Fires Everywhere. And I know that's been out for a while, but I'm learning to write something other than what I'm used to writing. And so I've been reading a lot of books to learn how to write. Although they're fiction, they're not how-to self-help or instructional books. And I tell people when I teach classes, do that too. Read a book as a reader and then go back and read it as a writer to see how they did things. Like Suspense, Mary's books, you read it and you learn how to put that suspense on the page. So I've been doing a lot of that. So I've been reading a lot of like domestic thriller fiction kind of. But B.A. Paris's book was just really good for me.
Cool. All right. Leslie, what about you?
I'm actually reading I I dabble between cozy and history. I really love history. I always think someday if I ever got a PhD, it'd be in history. But I'm actually reading a book. I think it's Alison Weir's Queens of Conquest. So it's medieval queens or something like that. But yeah, I read every night, and I read a variety of things. But I really live. I think the last cozy mystery I wrote was the last book in the vampire knitting series. I'm a knitter, not a vampire, but I'm a knitter. And
Thanks for the clarity.
Allegedly.
yeah, well,
Allegedly.
that's why the house is so clean, right? That blood is really hard to get out of there.
Terrible stains.
It's horrible. But that's by Nancy Warren. So yeah, I read every night. I read something, and I can read a weird variety of books. So
Awesome. Cool. All right, Mary.
I wrote it down. It's, let's see, Under the Never Sky. It's a young adult. It's kind of science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I like to read something that's completely different from what I write, because it gets your brain going in different directions. And I also just finished, or read it a few months ago, The Vanishing Half, which was a fantastic book. You talk about reading to learn, points of view, time shifts, characterization. There's a lot of good ones out there right now.
I read that book to learn to do a women's fiction, and then I put it in front of me when I started to write it, and I had to do what you were talking about, Mary, because that was her voice. But I was thinking it was how you write women's fiction instead of that's her voice. So until I got to like the third chapter, I go, oh my God, I can't do it this way. And then I got to use my own voice. But yeah, I used that as a model. That was a real good book.
Yeah, and that's her voice.
Yes.
But you can certainly learn from the structure of another book or that was a well done book.
Absolutely. And K.D.?
Right now I'm reading How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days.
Yes, that book looks so cute.
Keanu Reeves.
I'm writing this down. How to
Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days. I'm reading it I'm married, but I'm reading it as self-help just in case.
He's a catch.
You never know.
I love Keanu Reeves. So as soon as I saw that book, I was like, I have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also reading a book called The Hawthorne Legacies, and I can't remember Jessica. I can't remember her last name, but it's so good. It's I think it's technically YA. The main character is 17, 18 years old, but it's amazing. I love it. It's a fantastic book. So recommended for anyone who's interested. And it is a mystery, but it's more traditional. Nobody is like murdered on a page. It's a traditional mystery, but it's more of a puzzle. Sort of. So the main characters are trying to figure out a puzzle that was left by the patriarch of the family in his will, and it's just really like twists and turns galore. I loved it.
Oh, amazing!
I gotta read that.
Yeah, it's
really
really
good
good.
recommendations. All right, well, ladies, before we say goodbye, how can readers stay in touch with you and find out more about you? And I'll start with K.D.
They can find me at kdrichardsbooks.com and at KD Richards Author on Instagram.
Beautiful. All right, Mary.
MaryBurton.com and MaryBurton4 on Instagram. Those are the easiest ways to find me.
Awesome. Leslie?
LeslieLangtree.com and then Leslie Langtree on Facebook. I still haven't quite gotten the knack of Instagram yet. So I am on it, but I don't know what I'm doing. So
I have to get my grandson to show me Instagram.
That's what grandsons are good for.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I am not Leslie. That's my mother's name. What's my mother's name? So Abby L, and that stands for Leslie for my mother.
Oh.
Abby L. Vandiver, Vandiver. It's spelled like Van Diver, but it's not. So I'm Abby L. Vandiver. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and that's also my email, abbylvandiver@aol.com. Yes, I know with AOL you can see how old I am, but I love AOL.
Hotmail.
So yeah, find me. I love talking to people. So find me, say hey, email me. My website is the same thing, abbyvandiver.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I'd love to give a thanks to Mary, Abby, Leslie, and K.D. for joining us at Readers and Readers at Home. Be sure you visit freshfiction.com to learn more about all of these fabulous authors. All of them have books for sale right now. The holidays are just around the corner. Books make an amazing holiday gift for your friends, your families, and your enemies. Especially let them know what might be in store for them if they continue to be your arch nemesis. You know who you are, Audrey. And you can also
shop at independent bookstores.
Yes, shop at independent bookstores as much as you can. That is great. We're going to take a 5-minute break before our next panel, but I know that our next panel, which we're going to be joined by Dorinda Jones, Jennifer Estep, and Alexandra Ivy for a conversation about paranormal romance. But before I dismiss you guys, we have a winner for our raffle basket for this session. So if you have your VIP box and you have the pink raffle ticket, so pink like my shirt, Fresh Fiction Pink, head on over to the Fresh Fiction booth in the expo. You just click the little button on the left-hand side, it says expo, go down to the bottom. It's the biggest booth down there. Go see Sarah Reyes and show her your pink ticket. And we will see you in 5 minutes. Thank you guys so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.